Hi folks, I'm Matt, and wait a minute, I don't have to do that anymore. Hey guys, let's play a game. Today we're going to play Feudal by 3M Games. This is one of the old games from the 60s. It was called a bookshelf game because look at that. Looked like it went right there on your bookshelf. Made it look like books. Look how elegant it looks too. Ooh. This is actually my kitchen, is what it looks like. They probably took this right in my kitchen. Look at that. Yeah. A lot of the games had these kind of pictures on a very elegant board in the back. Now, is Feudal any good? That's the question. Let's find out. All right, so how the game starts is, of course, you will set the board. You can have 2, 4, 6 players, however many you want, but there can only be teams of 2. So for instance, in a 2-player game, there's 2 players, of course. But if you want to pick one of these other colors, they're either shades of brown or shades of blue. 4-player game would be 2 on 2. 6-player game would be 3 on 3. And you'd set up across the board, and you set these castles here. That's the goal, is try to take over that castle, get your opposition into that castle, or to kill off all of their royals. And these are their royals here. Just to kind of show you, this is the Duke, this is the Jack, yay, and this is the King, and it's good to be king, isn't it? Now looking at the board, you'll see that we have some green spaces. These dictate mountains, which no one can move through. You have rough terrain areas, which are these squiggly lines here, if you see them there. That means anyone on horse may not pass through that, but you may travel through it if you're on foot. Now that comes in handy in the game here, because there's going to be areas where you're going to need to block your opponent. So let me just go over all the basic moves of all these characters, and of course, let's start with the king, because it's good to be king. The king can move on the board anywhere 1 or 2 spaces horizontally, vertically or diagonally. 1 or 2 spaces, your choice. That's his movement. If you look at anyone on a horse, and we already talked about the Jack and the Prince, but also there is the Knight. Now, these people can move an unlimited amount of movements, either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, but of course they must stop if they get to the edge of a board, or if they get to any rough terrain areas or mountains, they must stop there. So for instance, if I wanted to attack this guy over here and I started right here, my first move would have to be right there. I could pop in my hole there, and that's about as far as I could go, because then my next turn, if he's still there, I could zip down all that way. Of course, if I was right here, I wouldn't be able to zip there. I could go diagonal, but I'd have to stop right there because there's a mountain, and that would be the end of this guy's move. So that's how people on mounted steeds would ride. The other characters you have here, this is a, whoa, look how it dropped him, Pikemen. You see the Pikemen here. And the Pikemen can move up to 12 spaces horizontally or vertically, or 1 space diagonally. Of course, they can't move on mountains. So if I want to go to 12 spaces here, I could, or just 1 space here. Now, that's the pikeman. The other man here is the sergeant, and he does the exact opposite. He can move up to 12 spaces diagonally, but only 1 space horizontally or vertically. The next one is, of course, our archer. Our archer can shoot or move 3 spaces in any direction. So if I'm the archer and I'm right here, I can move 1, 2, 3 here, 1, 2, 3 here, or I could go diagonally, 1, 2, 3 there. Now the only thing is, as an archer, I cannot shoot over mountains, or I cannot shoot over a castle. So if I'm here and a bad guy is here, I can't shoot over him. Now good idea would be to put him in your castle, then he can shoot anywhere, huh? From the castle. That's really neat. That's why that peg's there. Usually I think it's for the archer. All right, and the last one here is the Squire. Now the Squire is kind of like the knight in the whole game. He can move any direction, up or down, left or right, but then he has to move diagonally after that. So if I moved 1 over, then I can move diagonally this way. On my next move, if I want to move 1 up, I can move diagonally that way. And so that's how the Squire moves, kind of similar to the knight. Now during a play, you can move any of your characters as many spaces as you want. So let's just say this is a regular game here. I want to move my king 2 spaces, horizontally. Let me put all my steeds on the board. And let's say I've had him here, so I'm going to move him all the way across here, and he's going to take that guy, and there's where he's going to stand. That's the end of this move once he has attacked someone. This knight's going to move vertically all the way here. That's where he has to stop. The archer will move 1, 2, 3. You cannot be on the same space as another character. Durr. This guy is just going to move 1 up. This guy will move 1 over, even though I should be moving them 12 spaces that way if I wanted to use them. I'm going to keep the rest of the guys like this. Well, on the next move, blue could actually take him vertically. He can move him all the way across to here, and so on and so forth. Now, the object of the game, of course, is to get your man, boom, in that castle wall. And, of course, you can't jump over the castle wall. You got to come through the plains here, and you can take over the castle wall. Once you've done that, you've won the game. Now, another way to win the game is to kill off all of the royalty. If you didn't capture the castle, but you killed off these 3 royalty, then you have won the game. If you captured the castle, let's say it's a multiplayer game, and like 4 to 6 players, and someone captures the castle, well, a neat rule is you get to control that other person's army, and you basically get bigger, whatever's left of their army. You do have to kill off the royals, though, if they're not already dead. And if you killed off all the royals, then of course you just destroy their castle. And you can keep their army, like I said, in a 4 to 6 player game, because it can get really interesting after a while. And so that is Feudal. All right, so final thoughts. What do I think about Feudal? Well, first off, I've always looked into these games by 3M because I always thought they were interesting. Games from the 60s, they fit on your bookshelf. They look real neat. I want a full collection. And then I started looking at all the games that were available and went, maybe I don't want a full collection. A lot of these look like they suck. The most popular one, I believe, out of this 3M series was Squire. It actually got a reprint done a few years back and is kind of a popular game. Now, I checked out Squire, but I didn't really see what the big hubbub was. In fact, I found one of the original games, which goes for quite a lot on eBay right now, and it was really cheap at this flea market, and I didn't pick it up because, like, you know what? Squire looks like such a boring game. And Feudal, man, I gotta check it out. Look at all those pieces, right? And by the way, this isn't that cheap, brittle plastic. It's a much better grade plastic there, so they won't snap off. Even though, as a note, I do have a sergeant who is missing an axe, so that kind of sucks. But overall, what did I think? I was actually surprised by this game. Feudal plays a lot like chess. And even though the rules don't allow this, we've actually played with 4 players against each other. You just grab a corner of the board and then you just go versus. You have an enemy on your left and right and straight across from you. So it's really cool and adds an extra dynamic to the game and allows more people to play. Even though 6 players and teams of 2 could easily have a lot of fun there. That board would be crowded though. That would be nuts. Because of course you can move as many pieces as you want at one time. So just as a little side note, I actually love chess. I played it all the time as a kid. It was my #1 game ever, and but it was hard to get people to play with me. And then, of course, the cheap little set I had, of the faux wood set, disappeared or got thrown away years ago. So I actually do not own a real chess set. And I've always kind of wanted one that's really nice, but I just don't want to spend all that money because, again, I don't really know anyone who would want to play chess with me. There's not that much people out there who say, yeah, let's get a good game of chess going. No one says that. However, I've noticed they're more privy to play Feudal, which is very chess-like. In fact, I want to say they're trying to reinvent the game of chess with this game here, with Feudal. And when I show people the box, they're like, oh, cool, look at this. They're little peg army men and whatnot, and you put them in there and they move different spaces. Oh, that looks kind of cool. Yeah, it's chess in disguise. So this game actually surprised me because I really bought it. I opened it up. I saw that yucky green looking board with the little squares that dictate mountains, the wavy lines that dictate rough plains. I was thinking, oh man, I got a suck game. And then we started playing. I was like, oh, actually, I'm having a lot of fun. And my group had a lot of fun playing it too. So Feudal is actually going to be a keeper, and it's going to be a good replacement for the chess set that I never got. Now, should you get it? I don't know. There are better strategy games out there for sure. This game came out in the 60s, so I can't be too hard on it. And I have to say, for its time, it was a really great game. In fact, back in the day, I bet it would have been one of my favorites as well. It looks really neat. The pieces are really cool. Seems like they took a lot more time on this one. Other ones I've seen, they don't have as nice pieces. Feudal seems to beat it all as well as looks go, I would say. Feudal seems to beat out all the other 3M games. Now, I'm not an expert on 3M games, so, You know, don't quote me here, but I just think that Feudal is just a really solid game. If you love chess, yeah, why not? Pick it up. It's pretty cheap online at this point. But if you don't like chess, you're thinking, is there better out there, Matt? Should I really get this? Then yeah, you can just skip it. But for me, Feudal's kept going in my collection, and I am proud of it. All right, gamers, that's all for now. Until next time, game on in the frame.